CalAmars installer is one of the new features introduced in Debian 10 Buster. In this video, I will give you a quick overview of this new installer. Let's get started. CalAmars is not a totally new installer, it has been around for a while. It is a distro-independent project, but you may be well familiar with it if you have ever installed Manjaro. Since Debian 10, CalAmars installer is included in all live ISOs and can be used to install Debian. However, the installation ISO still uses the old Debian installer. You can also launch the default Debian installer from the start screen of the live ISO. I was not able to find clear information if CalAmars will ever become the default installer of Debian. According to the comment of the CalAmars package maintainer in Debian, this probably won't happen soon. CalAmars needs some KDE dependencies that make it unsuitable for small ISOs. But it would be great if Debian used CalAmars as a default installer. It is much user-friendlier than the default Debian installer. Let's have a quick look. You should find the CalAmars launcher in the menu or on the desktop of your live session. It looks pretty nice. Obviously, it is more modern looking than the default Debian installer. You need to select your language on the first screen, then specify your location, change your keyboard model if necessary, and do the partitioning. I usually select manual partitioning. I have an empty drive here, so I need to create a new partition table on it. I use MBR, it is a conservative choice. Let's create two partitions here. The first one will be 10 gigs with a system root mounting point. The second one will be my home partition. If it was a swap partition, you would also need to add a swap flag here, but I use a swap file instead. Watch my video where I argue for this choice and show how to create a swap file. As you can see, this partitioning is much easier than in the default installer. Everything is very intuitive if you're even little familiar with Linux partitions. You can also specify where to install the bootloader. Usually it defines the correct location automatically. You can also install Debian without a bootloader, if you already have other Linux distro installed on your system and you want to dual boot it with Debian. This is a standard user configuration window. I like CalAmars because all user information is presented in one window, whereas in the default installer you need to pass several windows to enter the same information. It is also worth mentioning that you only provide the user password here, and this user will be in the sudo group, so you will be able to execute administrative commands with the user password. On the other hand, to achieve the same result in the default Debian installer, you would have to leave the root password empty and provide only the user password, which is not that obvious, as I have showed in the Debian 10 installation guide. The CalAmars installer is definitely much better in this regard. There is an option to log in automatically, which is not present in the default installer. Another credit goes to the CalAmars installer for that. The summary window is also very informative. I especially like the illustration of the disk partition before and after the installation. Everything is fine here, let's install it. I will cut the installation process. It is still pretty long for both the default and the new installers. When the installation is finished, you will see this notification screen, and you can use it to reboot. After the reboot, you will see your Debian with the same desktop as you had in your live session. What do you think about CalAmars? Wouldn't it be great to have it as a default Debian installer? Leave your comment below. Thank you for watching.